Hey there, fellow horse lovers. Welcome back to the Daily Ride podcast. My name is Morgan. I'm your host, and today we're on camera diving into one of the most misunderstood but powerful forces in both horsemanship and in humans: vulnerability. This can be a scary and nuanced topic, but it's also potentially one of the most powerful aspects of horsemanship and of healing, which is at the heart of what True Heart Healing's mission is and at the core of what we talk about here on the Daily Ride podcast. I wanted to make this the topic of the first episode that I recorded on video for the podcast because I definitely feel vulnerable being on camera right now. But I'm blessed with some cousins who are professional videographers and producers, and I credit them with encouraging me to start this podcast in the first place and now encouraging me to move it onto a video platform. You can check out some of their work on my website under True Stories at www.the-daily-ride.com. Before I get into it, I want to remind you that the Daily Ride podcast directly supports my nonprofit, True Heart Healing. True Heart Healing's mission is to leverage the healing power of equine partnership and the joy of equine companionship to support and empower children with disabilities and/or life-altering illnesses, service members, veterans, and their families to build stabilizing relationships, facilitate learning and personal growth, find hope, and discover purpose. Head on over to www.the-daily-ride.com to check us out and make a donation. True Heart and I greatly appreciate your support. So you know I love my history, so that is where we're starting. I want to highlight the United States' 26th president, Theodore Teddy Roosevelt, America's cowboy president. Teddy Roosevelt was well known for creating and preserving our national parks, our bird reserves, and the U.S. Forest Service, and overall, he was known for being an avid outdoorsman. But did you know he was also just a little horse crazy? Though he was technically a city boy from New York, he fell in love with horses during his family vacations to the countryside. In the Mexican-American War, he formed the Rough Riders, the first voluntary cavalry regiment. Some of his favorite horses' names were Little Texas, Manitou, Rain in the Face, Renown, Roswell, and General. But his favorite horse while he was president was named Blystene. Blystene was a beautiful dark bay gelding whom he admired for his speed and his courage. In fact, he loved Blystene so deeply that when he heard that there were photographers around the White House that could take photos of him together with Blystene, he actually left his own state dinner, leaving his guests sitting at the table, and went to go get his horse. He led Blystene out of the stables. Teddy was still in his dress clothes, and he mounted up and posed for the cameras. Then he put Blystene back and resumed his state dinner. In the year 1910, Theodore Roosevelt gave a lecture at the University of Paris called Citizenship in a Republic. His two-term presidency had just concluded the year prior. Now, most people remember only one small part of this speech, the now famous Man in the Arena passage. But the heart of his speech was about what it means to be a true citizen of a free republic. Teddy Roosevelt's brand as a president and as a public figure centered around the idea of living a strenuous life, a topic on which he had previously written an essay. He believed that virtue lies in effort rather than in comfort. There were some political undertones in his speech. For context, he was fed up with the Taft administration and was chomping at the bit for change in America. But his speech is a powerful one in any context because he was speaking about a universal human truth. He spoke powerfully about the virtue in action, courage, and in striving for worthy goals over passive criticism and inaction. He argued that credit belonged to the person who actively engaged in doing a difficult task, his man in the arena, even if they fail, rather than giving credit to those who watch from the sidelines and criticize. The speech celebrates the effort, the risk of failure, and the resilience required to dare greatly and accomplish great things that being a sideline critic just can't. So perhaps you've heard this speech before, and this is a welcome refresher, or perhaps this is new, and I'm thrilled to be the one to share it with you. He said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." That last phrase, daring greatly, inspired the title of Brené Brown's book. Now, whether you've heard the Man in the Arena speech before, there is a solid chance you've heard of Brené Brown. She's a researcher, author, and a speaker whose work is truly transformative. So if you haven't checked out her work already, I really encourage you to, because this speaks directly to the heart of horsemanship. Every time we mount up, we are stepping into the arena, literally and metaphorically. We risk being judged, falling short, falling off, or otherwise doing something painful or embarrassing. But your horse doesn't care about perfection. They care about your presence. They care that you showed up, even if you continue to screw everything else up. Horses live in a constant state of awareness. Their survival depends on reading energy, on sensing authenticity. You can't lie to your horse. You can't fake being calm, fake confidence, or fake connection. If you walk out into your pasture carrying tension from earlier in the day, they'll feel it. If you act happy to see them, but it's not genuine, they know. If your heart is racing, either from fear or from frustration, they pick up on that and they will hear it before you even make your way over to them. And yet, if you show up honestly, maybe upset about something from earlier in the day, but still present, your horse will soften. Because horses don't judge your vulnerability, they understand it. They live in a constant state of vulnerability. And so much of our work as riders, trainers, and equine partners is about cultivating that sense of safety so our horses can continue to be vulnerable with us. Safety is actually born out of vulnerability. It is the willingness to be seen without pretense and trusting that the other person seeing you will still choose to be with you. In a previous episode on the Daily Ride podcast called Herd Harmony, I talked about attunement. When we attune to a horse, when we notice their breath, their posture, or their gaze, we actually are activating mirror neurons in our brains. These are the systems that allow empathy and emotional resonance. I think the first time I was purposely on video was in another lifetime when I was playing the cello. The cello is a stringed instrument, and over the years, I spent a lot of time in orchestra rehearsals. Often, the conductor would have one section of instruments play a passage while the other section waited. And something that often happens in orchestras is called resonance. This is when one instrument is playing a note and those sound waves travel through the air to move the strings on another unplayed instrument across the room and cause that instrument to make that same sound. It's pretty powerful, and also why you see string players keep their hands over their strings while the brass is playing. Look for this the next time you see a symphony performance. And if you've never seen a symphony, what are you doing? Your local community absolutely has one, so please go check them out. Let's take a quick break from this week's episode to talk about one of the Daily Ride podcast's sponsors. So you all know that I spend a lot of time around horses, which means when I get home, I want to get comfy and I need to get cozy, and I really need good rest. So I'm super excited to tell you that Cozy Earth has decided to partner with the Daily Ride, and I have an exclusive discount code to share. Their products are made from bamboo, so not only are they incredibly soft, like buttery soft, they're also temperature regulating, so I don't wake up sweaty anymore, and I just enjoy cool, dry, comfortable sleep. Plus, their sheets are lightweight and durable. And listen, I'm not the only one who loves these sheets. Oprah has had Cozy Earth on her favorite things list for 7 years running, and Kris Jenner swears by them too. They've even been called the world's softest sheets on the talk, and honestly, I would have to agree. They also have the coziest bamboo pajama sets. I think I have like 5 of them, and they're the perfect mix of elegant looking and super comfy, stretchy, and breathable. Basically, the kind of pajamas that you don't mind being seen in and don't want to take off. Cozy Earth has thousands of 5-star reviews, free shipping on orders over $50, and even a 100-night sleep trial so you can see for yourself risk-free. Plus, they back all of this up with a 10-year warranty. So here's the exciting deal. I got the very best discount that they offer, which is 21% off the entire website when you use my code TheDailyRide, no spaces, at cozyearth.com. This takes 21% off of your entire order, and 15% of your purchase goes directly to True Heart Healing. So this is a win-win. You get their best discount, you're donating to True Heart Healing, and you get to enjoy the best sheets and pajamas ever. So head on over to www.cozyearth.com and remember to use my code TheDailyRide, that's TheDailyRide at checkout for 21% off the entire website. Now, let's get back into it. But more than just musical notes can resonate with others. Emotions and physiological states resonate too. This is rooted not in psychology or energetics, but in biology. Our brains and our horses' brains have mirror neurons that, you guessed it, mirror other brains and body signals, allowing for resonance. These neurons attune, resonate, or harmonize with other brain's mirror neurons when you're connected in a relationship. It is the biology of empathy and compassion, and it anchors our nervous systems in safety. Emotional resonance bypasses language and our cognitive thinking parts of our brain, where a lot of us, especially myself, tend to get stuck or run around in circles. And instead, it taps straight into the body's memory of connection and therefore safety. And that's why healing can only occur in the context of relationships. We don't heal in isolation, not really. We can rest, recover, and reflect on our own, but true transformative healing, the kind that rewires our nervous system and restores our sense of safety, requires connection. Trauma and dysregulation don't just live in the mind, they live in the body, in the patterns of our nervous system. And that's why when something overwhelms us and we can't escape or fight it, our body learns to protect us through hypervigilance, numbness, or withdrawal. When a human or a horse experiences fear or uncertainty, the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, lights up. But when we feel safe and connected, oxytocin and serotonin start to flow. These are the bonding or calm chemicals. In equine therapy research, particularly studies on trauma-informed horsemanship, we see how horses mirror human emotions through heart rate coherence, when the horse is given the freedom to choose to engage with their human. You can experiment with this yourself with your own horse too, making sure to give your horse the chance to choose to engage with you. That's key. When we regulate ourselves, take a deep breath and ground our energy, and your horse is choosing to spend time with you, your horse's nervous system will often calm down to synchronize with yours. See if you can catch this the next time you're out with your horse. So when Brené Brown says vulnerability is the birthplace of connection, she's not speaking metaphorically. It's actually physiological truth. Vulnerability is the first step to connecting. It's taking your fingers off of the strings so that you can be open to receiving vibrations from those around you and truly resonate with them and be healed. This is really exciting to know and leverage in our own lives and in working with horses who also can experience trauma and dysregulation, because it tells us that we don't have the impossible task of going back in time and erasing the dysregulation or trauma that happened to us. We only have to experience what safety feels like again and practice returning to that state of safety within our nervous system. We do this best in the presence of someone else. In humans, this happens through relationships that are built on trust, empathy, and attunement. And in horses, it's mirrored through co-regulation, the way that horses use their heart rates, their breathing, and their emotional states to align with each other and with us when we are all in the same space. The relationship itself is the medicine that we can use to heal. A horse doesn't heal us by doing something for us. They heal us by being with us. And in return, when we create safety for our horse, when we listen and regulate and honor their boundaries and attune to their nervous system, we in turn give them that same medicine right back. Healing is reciprocal, and there is poetic symmetry in that too. It flows both ways. So, what does all of this have to do with vulnerability? Well, true connection requires vulnerability to come first. Resonance requires vulnerability to come first. And when most people hear the word vulnerability, they think of weakness. After all, vulnerability technically means being exposed, unguarded, maybe even at risk or defenseless. But as researcher Dr. Brené Brown's work shows us, vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength. It's actually the birthplace of courage, empathy, and I personally find most important, connection. You cannot truly connect, be seen, or be understood without first being willing to be vulnerable. In her book, Daring Greatly, Brené Brown writes, "Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It is having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome." That sounds a lot like what happens every time we go hang out with our horses. Spending time with your horse, riding, or training never really involves complete control for either of you. When we step into that shared space with the horse, this 1,000-pound being with instincts tuned for survival, we're both pretty vulnerable. The horse, being the prey animal that it is, must decide if it's safe to trust us and try to engage with what we're asking of them. We're predators, and we all have the capacity for unkindness when we aren't being our best selves. We also tend to ask our horses to do some potentially scary things, like get into a trailer. And we as humans also have to drop our ego, our agenda, and meet our horses where they are, even if that looks very different than what we had wanted to do that day or felt entitled to work on, simply because we own them. It's a mutual risk that we take, knowing that we might fall, fail, be kicked, be misunderstood, ignored, or be rejected. But if we can lean in to sit with that discomfort, accept that scary vulnerability, or even learn to embrace it, only then do we stand the chance of getting to the good stuff, that true connection and partnership, the kind that we talked about earlier, the healing kind that permeates down through our nervous system and into our bones. Roosevelt spoke about the importance of showing up, of committing to take action, even if your attempts are full of errors. He understood that the credit belongs to those who are out there trying to do the thing, even if they're failing. And he went so far as to shame the folks that are sitting on the sidelines critiquing instead of trying their own hand in the arena for themselves. And with that, I also want to name something from that passage. And that is that it is immeasurably easier to be the critic on the sidelines. There's no risk. You aren't exposed in a way that anyone can judge you. And yes, people do. Often we're taught not to be vulnerable from childhood. Don't express emotion. Don't show weakness. Don't let them see you cry. Don't admit fault and bring attention to your mistakes. We spend a lifetime trying to protect ourselves from pain and judgment by refusing to be vulnerable. Brené Brown refers to this as putting on your armor. It protects us from external threats, sure, but it also keeps anyone from really seeing who we are underneath it. And if you aren't being seen, you can't be understood. Further, armor gets really heavy over time, and it's really cumbersome to put on and take off. Many of us, myself included at times, can get into a habit of just leaving that armor on. Living under that weight sometimes seems less risky than allowing someone else to see us as we really are in all of our messy, imperfect glory and allow them the opportunity to possibly reject us for it. After all, studies have shown that pain from rejection and criticism can actually register to us as actual physical pain in our bodies. And it makes sense that we wouldn't want to risk that if it could be easily avoided by keeping our armor on. So, who would risk being vulnerable? Only someone brave. Only someone willing to get in the arena and risk failing. Only that person also has the opportunity to show up in all their glorious mess and be met with another being saying, "Hey, same, me too," and truly mirroring being with them. Is that worth being brave for? I think so, and your horse probably does too. Let's take a quick pause from today's episode to talk about the obvious for us horse owners in the winter months. Working with horses means putting your hands through a lot between holding the reins, fixing fences, mucking stalls, and just cold mornings at the barn. I've gone through a lot more gloves than I can count, and I'm really picky. It's hard to find a pair that I really love and can keep up. But recently, I think I found one, and they're called bare knuckles. Now, these aren't your average work gloves. They're made with a patented double wedge, pre-curved design that fits the natural curve of your fingers, so you get less hand fatigue and more grip strength. And this means you can go muck stalls, swing a hammer, or ride all day without that stiff cramping feeling that most gloves will give you. The premium leather is tough enough for the hardest jobs, but soft enough that you can still handle delicate tack or your tools. Plus, they're warm too. Their insulated pair is perfect for cold weather chores or trail rides. And honestly, once you put them on, you too will understand why they're called the best leather gloves ever made. Here's the best part. Bare Knuckles is partnering with the Daily Ride podcast to give you 15% off your purchase when you use the code The Daily Ride at checkout. Even better, 15% of your purchase using The Daily Ride at checkout will go directly to support True Heart Healing, my nonprofit. So if you've been meaning to upgrade your gloves, or if you need a great gift for someone else who works hard with their hands, go to buybareknuckles.com. That's BUYBEARKNUCKLES.com. Use the code The Daily Ride, no spaces. That's 15% off for you and 15% off donated to True Heart Healing. It's rare to find gear that works as hard as you do and supports a good cause. So next time you're saddling up or heading to work and think you need a good pair of gloves, think about bare knuckles and give your hands a little comfort for all that they do for you. So, what arena can you step into and be seen in? Is it admitting to yourself that your fear of failure has been holding you back? Is it letting go of perfection and finding joy in doing something good enough or even badly? Is it walking back into the barn after putting your horse down and still choosing to go say hi to someone else's horse and keep your heart open for another despite the weight of all the grief? Is it admitting that you said something hurtful and reaching out to reconnect with a friend after a tough fight? For me, a moment of vulnerability came with my trainer. I had to swallow my rather stupid pride that I had bought a semi-feral 2-year-old horse despite never having a young, untrained horse before, and that in doing so, she had kicked me. I had to get over the fact that, yes, this very impressive trainer might judge me for that, and it was tough for me to admit that I was pretty shaken up and scared of what this horse might do when I climbed on her back for that first ride. But I needed to admit that I was afraid, so not just so my trainer Tara could meet me where I was at, but also so True could decide if she was willing to hold space for me to be reticent and timid at first. And man, that was scary. Trusting this really impressive trainer who hadn't yet become my friend and this really young horse who I hadn't gotten to know yet to see my fear and shaken confidence and not judge me for it, but embrace it as something valid and something they both could work with. And because of that, I don't worry about someone judging me for buying more horse than I could handle at the time. I was vulnerable about owning it. And by doing that, it allowed me to build a relationship with that feral little kicking horse that I'm more proud of now than anything else that I've done so far in my life. And it allowed that impressive trainer to help me improve my own riding. And in the process of working with her, I gained a lifelong friend. And guess what? I climbed on for that first ride, and True went slow for me, and Tara cheered me on, and True was so careful with me those first few rides. She didn't start sassing me until I was getting my confidence back. Every meaningful partnership, horse or human, at some point requires you to dare greatly. Sometimes just showing up as your authentic self in your life is also an incredible feat. My family is known for having the gift of sensitivity, and as a highly sensitive person, I feel things overwhelmingly deeply. This means my capacity for love and joy is immense, but I also feel sadness and grief so deeply sometimes that it feels like I could drown in it. This sensitivity, this capacity to feel deeply, requires a lot of strength. My emotional support kitty is joining me when I talk about my sensitivity. It's like she knows. It has taken me so many years to hold my feelings and experience them without shame or believing that I'm too much and I need to hide or filter what I'm going through. And while this may have made things feel easier at times, it prevented me from really forming deep relationships with my friends and family. It wasn't until I learned to lead with my vulnerability that I learned that I'm not the only highly sensitive person in my circle of friends. I still struggle with this at times, but it wasn't until I let myself be truly seen for who I am, with the incredible joy and the bottomless grief and everything in between, that I was able to find and enjoy my true friends. So, where can you work on being more vulnerable in your life? It could be admitting that your horse's anxiety is mirroring your own. It could be letting go of the idea that you have to dominate your horse in order to be respected by them. Or it could be making your audio only podcast into a video podcast. Roosevelt's man in the arena isn't fearless. He's brave and he gets all of the credit in the end because he's willing to try. And in trying, he's expressing his vulnerability. And so today, I invite you to be the one who dares greatly. Because as Brené Brown reminds us, you can't get to courage without walking through vulnerability. And as Roosevelt said, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls. So go get out there and get in the arena. This has been the first video episode of the Daily Ride podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and please share it to your friends and family. And go support our work at True Heart Healing by checking us out at www.the-daily-ride.com. Until the next time, go get in the arena and go enjoy the ride.